What is going on, Lee Tribe? All right, you guys, the political season is upon us. There is money out there, and if you're creative and early, you can capitalize on it. I just had my best month ever on TeePublic, and the reason you never hear me talk about TeePublic is because I don't usually make much on TeePublic, maybe $200 to $300 a month on average. So that's why I don't talk about it much. And I did not specifically target TeePublic. Anytime I'm doing designs related to what's going on in the world, especially politics, I will do TeePublic, Redbubble, and Amazon. And I find that those three platforms for me tend to do the best with what's going on in the world, especially with politics. So I just upload where I think designs have the best chance of selling and then go from there. And the design actually sold on multiple platforms. So that's what I wanted to talk about in this video. If you want to sell without spending money on advertising, it's all about being early or first with a unique idea. And it's amazing how many people watch my videos, they assume I pay for advertising. I get my sales from free traffic, whether you're talking about Redbubble, TeePublic, or Amazon. Speaking of unique ideas and standing out, you guys are not paying attention to my tips. It was either April or May, and it might have been on my podcast, so I apologize if I'm yelling at the wrong people. But I gave this tip about a quarantine birthday shirt, T-E-E-N, so spelled differently from quarantine. And I remember when I did research back in April or May, I noticed there were no shirts out there with that idea. And so I thought, oh, I got to get on that. And I never did. Well, I was doing some research on Amazon today, and lo and behold, I find this well-ranked, low BSR shirt with this idea on it. And the reason why I feel like people didn't take my advice is when I started looking at the dates on these shirts, all of them have been uploaded within the last month or two. So none of them were from April or May when the video came out or when the podcast came out. And so no one jumped on it. And it seems to be doing pretty well. So this one right here has got a BSR of 66,000. There was another one. Yeah, this one's at 90,000. It's not a bad keyword. And it's one of those play on word type of designs that I really, really like to do and I've had a lot of success with, especially with the sports arena. And so let me give you guys another tip. Hopefully y'all will listen this time. Instead of 13, maybe you can do something different with 16. So when I started doing some research with Sweet 16 for the quarantine, I noticed that they don't seem to be selling quite as much as the 13. But one thing I noticed that no one's taking advantage of or playing with is you can sort of do a play on the words with sweet or the quarantine making your Sweet 16 not so sweet. So I don't have the right wording in my head, but you can do something like Sweet 16, living in quarantine or whatever, and then cross out the word sweet to imply that it's not so sweet because you're in a quarantine. Or you could do a sour 16, but I don't know. That sounds kind of weird. Sour 16? Nah, that sounds nasty. No, just cross out the sweet or just something to that effect. You know what I'm saying? So give that a try because they do seem to be kind of selling, but you can play around with any age. It doesn't have to be 13 or 16, but people are buying birthday shirts and celebrating with their birthday parades and, you know, the social distance parties. And that's the other thing. You can make a shirt for a parade or say something about the birthday parade that everybody's doing. I haven't done any research on that particular keyword, but that's another way you can stand out in the birthday arena. You guys, early on in Merch by Amazon, I would say, and I still do decent today, but a lot of them are older shirts. But between 2017 and early 19, you guys, I cleaned up in the birthday space. That was one of my top 5 keywords on Merch by Amazon back in the day. And there's still a lot of opportunity out there. I've just been focusing on other things, but the key is you've got to niche these ideas down to different people, different ideas, what's going on in the world. So work that space. So the idea is instead of doing a generic birthday shirt, you're niching down one level to a quarantine, then you're niching down one more level to a milestone or age, and then you're niching down a final level potentially to maybe a gender. You can do one for a female or a male or both. Now, back onto the politics scene. This is another keyword that's doing pretty well right now on Merch by Amazon, and it's quieted down in the last couple days. When I first thought of this video 2 days ago, I was doing research and they were selling really, really well. And they're still doing okay, but not as well. So get on this as soon as possible. But this is from a quote that Trump made, I guess about 3 to 4 weeks ago. person, woman, man, camera, TV. So of course, everybody did shirts on it. Now, the first thing I would say about doing quotes from celebrities or TV or in politics is a lot of times these quotes can become trademarked over time. So be careful. Now, what I will typically do if there's a popular quote, I will take out a word or make my own quote and replace a word with another word that rhymes with it, if applicable, or another word from a different niche. You still recognize it, but it applies now to a different niche. So I completely flip the script. That's what I prefer to do. I'm a little careful about just taking quotes just because they might become trademarked later. However, I want to point out what somebody did to stand out. Now, if you notice, just like you see with a lot of keywords, people are just copying what everybody else is doing, just writing the text right down the shirt. And then up here, I noticed somebody was doing something different. And I'm going to guess this is probably one of the original ones because it seems to be doing the best. This person took shapes and represented the same quote with pictures, with imagery. And this is something I like to do a lot. And it's also one of the reasons I'm a custom shapes addict in Photoshop. Not only do I have a ton of custom shapes, but I also now create my own shapes and add them to my library and I reuse them. So for example, if you're doing a baby shower shirt for 2021, and I like taking symbols and replacing them with the numbers in 2021 or 2020, especially if the symbols are round and they look like one of the numbers. So replacing symbols with a lot of things or using symbols to represent what you're trying to say works really well. And I also remember in my early days on merch, when I was selling really, really well in the soccer space, I had some girls soccer shirts that used to do really well back in the day. I remember seeing a shirt that was just killing it. And it was, I love soccer, but it was all symbols. And so that's when I just started collecting custom shapes. And of course, now I make my own. But yes, I use this symbol strategy a lot with a lot of different spaces. But the point I want to make about this shirt here is that all the copycat or the very close replicas of the text going down the shirt, there are tons of those. This one, even though it was uploaded around the same time as those other shirts, this one is selling way more because it's different and it's unique. And what's interesting about this keyword, it's not super, super saturated. It will be by the time this video gets older, but it's not too bad. It was at like 600. Oh, it's 1,000 now. See? People are probably picking up on this. They probably are using Merch Informer or something and figuring out that it's trending. But yeah, so there's money in this keyword. Get on it, but try to think outside the box. Now, I've had a lot of people say to me, Lisa, I don't get it. I can't be as creative as you. I can't come up with these ideas the way that you do. Stop saying that. You can. If you spend as much time on this as I do, you could. And people always say, why don't you do more YouTube videos? Real talk. That's one of the reasons you all don't see me a lot on YouTube, because I actually do better, contrary to what a lot of people probably believe, on my designs than I do on YouTube or even selling courses. My POD income it's not even comparable to YouTube. And I never want to rely on YouTube. And so that's why you see me spending so much time off of YouTube, because I'm normally creating. So with all that creating, I tend to have so many different designs on different platforms and different keywords that I'm selling in. And so I often reuse like my best selling ideas on so many different shirts. But if you spent the time on this like I do, yes, you can be creative. It just takes practice. And once you have one design that's doing really well, you go, oh, let me take that same idea and apply it to a different niche or a different space or a different person. You can do this. You really can. You just got to practice. So with the political season, the first thing I would suggest that you do is to look up the issues and research the issues, because everybody's going to be doing the candidates. And that's just, that's going to be so overdone. Now, if you've got a great idea, then that's one thing. But there are so many other issues, from the wall to gun control to education, abortion, race, whatever. All the major topics, you'll be able to niche down inside those topics. And then you can do pro shirts for the topics or against shirts for the topics. You can even niche down to men, women, and kids where applicable. And I saw a t-shirt for kids that was related to one of the candidates. And I'm like, you don't see a lot of people targeting the kids, but people who are really into politics, they want to buy shirts for their kids too. So don't forget about that keyword when you're trying to think of people you can target. The other thing I think is going to be big is climate change. Those shirts tend to go up during the election as well. So do some research on that as well. And you can play around with change with regards to the election. You're hoping for a change in the White House and a change in the climate, or, you know, there's tons of ways that you can do that. If you want to do a shirt for someone who's pro climate change, you know, just play with it, you guys. The more you do this, and it's fun. This should be fun. I was discussing this with one of my viewers in the last video in the comments, and you could tell this person was very, very frustrated. And I was like, this shouldn't make you upset. If you don't believe you can do this, then that's going to be your result. And I know that sounds cheesy, but it is true. I enjoy this. I enjoy the creative aspect of this. And anybody who's selling well will tell you that's what makes this fun. So I'm really happy to see more of you posting in the comments that you are selling now. A lot of you posted in that last video that you got your first sale. And that encourages me because it lets me know you guys are paying attention, except for the quarantine idea. But you're learning and you're getting sales even in a pandemic. So keep it up. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys later.